Then have to create something new.
Was hat er gefragt?
Dass ich eine Botschaft geben soll.
Ah, okay. Für die.
Yes. Auch vielleicht das, even though it's difficult at times to cooperate, but that we have to learn. We cannot go back to Krishna without cooperating with the devotees. If we have some ill feeling with devotees, we're not achieving perfection in life. No?
Mm.
Can you speak about how you have relationship with your God brother? Or
The problem is I'm mostly in places where I don't have association with God. That's why I mentioned this morning when we sat together and heard about Nityananda. That Tadvavit, I mentioned that there's only association here with senior devotees. But in South America, I have hardly association. My association is mostly on the internet. Mail, Skype. Yeah. I'm not as fortunate as you are.
but you always try. He say no. You don't want to stay in the front when your other God brother are in the same place.
I have always been a servant. This is my service. I was always assisting. And the problem started when those I were assisting left. And they left me on the front. Just like when I went to Argentina, South America. Actually, Harike told me to go there. He found out that I spoke Spanish, and we had this couple in the Bhakta program in Schloss Reidershof. He was from Argentina, and she was German. And then they went over. At one point, and this boy, he asked me, my mother, she's separate from my father, and she has a big farm there. Is there anything we can do with this? So I told him, yeah, use it for Krishna. And I didn't think very much about that. And then all of a sudden he went to Argentina, with his wife to visit his mother, and he preached to his mother. She became a devotee. And then they invited Harikesh to see the farm. Harikesh became super inspired by that farm. But at that time it was a military dictatorship, so we couldn't find. Hare Krishna was prohibited, verboten. So he went over. He came back super inspired. So he asked the devotees, who can we send? Actually, Bhakti Shakti, the devotee who went over, already told him that he wanted me to go there. Because I had spoken Spanish with him in the Bhakti program. So, and Harikesh came back and just I had just opened a temple in Berlin with Manidara. We went to open a temple there. And then Harikesh came and he said, go over to Argentina. With just a one-way ticket. Yeah, one-way ticket. One-way ticket. Take a pair of kartas and a medanga because they have nothing. They're living in a cellar, in Buenos Aires. And they're very paranoid because of the military government. Just go. And so I got a ticket to Chile. It was the cheapest, to Santiago. And they didn't want to let me go on the plane because I had no return ticket. So I started preaching to them and I'm speaking, and then finally the guy said, okay, so then that's your problem, he said, when you get there. And then I arrived in Chile. And there was Jagajivan, there was Panchajabi, there was there also.
Prabhupada disciples. No?
Yeah. Both sannyasis. And I was Brahmachari, I was in Western Saffron. And anyway, so that's how it started. And then we went to Argentina, and everything started to explode. Because that same year, that after 1 year, there was a war, the Falkland Island War.
Yeah.
With England. They had all of a sudden they had a war. And then after the war, the military government fell, and they had a they had a democratic election. And as soon as a new government moved in, we all put all our devotional clothes and went on Harinam. Bah! And the whole country was like that. Everyone was feasting, and because of the military government, the dictatorship was over. And so we just fit in and chanting Hare Krishna. And we had collected that months before, in December, we had made a marathon with magazines, Atma Tattva magazines. We printed these magazines.
Yeah.
And we collected so much money that we got a house. Not that we bought it, but rent. No? We found a very nice house. We moved into Via Urquiza.
Yeah.
Big house, huge house. And it filled with devotees after a short time. The whole temple full of devotees, no devotees. And that's where Aravinda came.
Yeah.
Krishna sent Aravinda. He brought Aravinda back
Krishna.
to his spiritual life. I'm sure he wasn't really spiritual life, the last life was. He was a musician. No?
Hare Krishna.
You were a musician. No?
¿Cómo?
Músico. Fuiste un músico.
Yeah. All young boys are music.
Yeah, anyway, so he was one of the first ones. Started. And the Argentines are very good Sankirtanins. No?
Yeah.
Argentines are very good Sankirtanins. One of the reasons is that Argentines like to talk. They talk and talk and talk, blah, 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 blah.
Geborene Prediger.
When they get
Born
together,
preacher.
they never stop speaking. It's always speaking. No? And that's what you need when you do Sankirtan. Yes, and so many nice devotees came at that time in Argentina. So many nice devotees. Very fired up. All young, ecstatic.
I remember 52 Sankirtan devotees in the temple.
52.
52. 52. No? 52.
Yeah, we had our own Sankirtan newsletter. We had a lot of lot of things going on at that time. And we opened temples also. We sent devotees to different places to open new temples.
Yeah.
52 only in one temple.
Yeah. In some time. No? Yeah. 62.
And the deities also came back when the military government, they permitted us to function. We didn't even know. We read it in the newspaper that we were not allowed to function anymore as Hare Krishna. So the devotees grabbed the deities at a big Tulsi plant, and they went on the plane and went to Brazil, Nova Vicula, to the farm. And then when we started again in Argentina, the military government was gone, we brought the deities back also for us, who were living in exile.
What deities?
Konitai. And now they got big deities, Radha Krishna. They're still in boxes, but they will install them. Yeah. Now Argentina is a very special place for Krishna. You know? It has the movement there has its own dynamics. At one point I had to leave Argentina because I had health problems. I had to stay. I stayed in an Abenteuer for a whole year, remember? Yeah. So during that time they convinced somebody else to take charge of the yacht. And then after a while another sannyasi went there. And he's very successful. He's been, making things bigger, expanding things. They got a huge building now. They bought a whole school. Anyway, so that's history.
And how you organized the Sankirtan there when you came there, that you had so many Sankirtan devotees and their books, and how you...
I started making magazine, literature first of all. They had nothing. And they couldn't bring them in either, because it was very difficult to bring things in, so we just started printing. And I made the literature myself.
Yeah, yeah.
Days
I remember.
Days and days, without sleeping.
Yeah, without sleeping.
I had one assistant, and we made a magazine. Books and, yeah.
Sometimes
he was dropping all the time. I was there. We were kind of. They had no computer to do magazines.
Yeah.
Every line, I had to draw the line and glue the letters and everything.
Yeah.
And do the text and print them and all that. It was the whole truth. But the devotees were all waiting for new piece of literature. And we got so much into it that at one point we had, this was before we got books, we made 3 magazines, and that was the first time we put color covers on them. And the devotees ran out with these magazines,
Yeah. This magazine had full bhakti, full work of Guru Maharaj.
People started noticing us. They started noticing us in Buenos Aires as los chicos vegetarianos. Die Chicos, die jungen Leute, die Vegetarier. Weil das war in Argentinien. In Argentina, vegetarian was a kind of
Außerirdische.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
Außerirdische.
It's one of the biggest meat producers in the world.
Yeah.
And you see this meat everywhere. On the street, they not like here. They have all the shops, very nice. They open. In South America, you have shops on the street. People just put up something and they have a shop there. So they start making their meat. And the whole street is full of this.
Yeah.
This smoke from the meat, and all that. So when we started, when I came to Argentina, there was no yogurt, there was no semola, Chris. There were many things they just didn't know. They had
No vegetarian restaurant, no nothing.
Only meat.
Only me.
Yeah.
What was the magazine?
That's why I read once in Uruguay and Argentina, especially Uruguay actually, a little country on the side of Argentina. Uruguay has the highest quota of intestinal colon cancer, intestinal cancer,
Eingeweidekrebs.
Eingeweidekrebs. Und die haben den höchsten, tienen el consumo más alto en el mundo per capita, per person of meat. So obvious. And Uruguay was even worse. They also had a military dictatorship, and we could also not function there. We also had to sneak in at the time. Yeah, it was a kind of underground work at that time.
En un garage predicaban al principio, ¿no?
Yeah. In einem Garage. Haben wir da angefangen, in der Garage. Genau wie Stephen Jobs. Wisst ihr, was Stephen Jobs ist?
Das war ja auch ein Junge.
Der Apple Und wird auch in der Garage angefangen. Anyway.
What's the title of the magazine?
Atma Tattva.
Atma Tattva.
Very nice. Good. I have some copies. No here.
You put something from
Many
our
people came.
Yeah.
Became devotees.
I
with
make
Atma
devotees.
Tattva.
Yeah, I become devotee for this magazine.
How was the magazine combined with articles somehow?
Yeah,
Exceptions?
On the street, you become.
Yeah, one devotee sell.
First magazines we couldn't
One
say
magazine.
Prabhupada's name
Oh.
and many other things we couldn't mention. But the devotees were just so enthusiastic in it that people became devotees because of the magazine.
Yeah, because this magazine has full bhakti.
And how long went this period where you distribute magazine? Over which time?
I don't know, maybe 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
Only magazine had been there. And through the magazine the devotees came. All the
I think 2 years, I'm not sure anymore.
And then the first books came.
Yeah, then we printed the Bhagavad Gita. And the films of the Bhagavad Gita were so bad because they had lost the original films. Because at that time there was no computer, you wouldn't work with a computer making books. Everything was like glued, and they had to make the films, and they had to make the printing plates and all this. And even though the Bhagavad Gita was so badly printed, people became devotees. Yeah? And also, the letters were so small, you know, but they became devotees. Was the enthusiasm of the devotees actually? No?
But you were enthusiastic.
Whatever it was Krishna. Powerless. Power and powerless. Anyway, so. And now there's more communication between my disciples over there and the devotees here. It's very nice.
Yeah, that's right.
Now you know Aravinda. So you know Gauravani. You know Chaitanya Lila.
Actually, también is also very fun.
Huh?
Es famous, es famosa.
Yeah.
Es grande.
He was also in America for some time doing something. He
Yeah.
could also come to Mexico for a while, but they would not let him go from Berlin. So he made himself too valuable there. He does Sankirtan, he does Bhakti programs, he does other things. And he also, his home, his house, is like the shelter of so many devotees.
It's the house of my wife, and she gives shelter.
Yeah, his wife is an inherit, how is it?
Yeah,
Inheritance. So they got a house to do their program. His wife is an extremely good cook. So very expert in all these. That's one of the reasons why somebody is always going
Yeah.
And he looks healthy, no?
Yeah.
From the cooking.
How do you make Sankirtan devotees is maintain inspiring of young devotees in Sankirtan?
By having association with Sankirtan devotees. They develop themselves and inspire others. I had a great fortune of a good Sankirtan upbringing. In that time, Sankirtan was our fixation, and everyone who joined went on Sankirtan. First, we had the honor to be in the Bhakti program, by Bhakti Bhushan Maharaj. Then we went on Sankirtan, had also Sankirtan.
Yeah, we had a
there.
we had a very nice program at that time. I was training the bhaktas, and Manidhara was in charge of the Sankirtan.
Yeah.
So he would always come and say, "Is there any new person?" And he would take the new ones out. He would go out and train them on Sankirtan. And we would make them, we would get them, to the temple and sit them down, drive to their home, and took all the furniture, went to the bank, got all the money out of the bank. We used to take the dogs and cats to the where they take care of cats and dogs, to liberate them from this. And then we just put them in the Bhakta program, and we had a tough program, Bhakta program. Harinam every day, and classes, several classes a day. And they all learned Ishopanishad, things like that. Very, very, very German style. Yeah.
And many people become the Sankirtan devotees
Oh,
by this
mostly
program.
are. And it got very deep planted into the heart. You can hardly forget it in this life. And the greatest bliss we experienced was in that to be absorbed in its service. It was a good preparation, a good foundation we got in Krishna consciousness, where we learned from where the higher taste is coming from. And with that higher taste, we went out and shared it with others. That's all. And we're still doing that. I have to say this: the spirit. It's not not the spirit of us. It's the spirit we got from Prabhupada's disciple, like Bhakti Bhushan Maharaj. It was so lively. It was just Prabhupada just had left the planet for 2 years ago, and it was this difference. I always think I never could imagine to be a disciple of Prabhupada, because I never had the honor to meet him personally. And I still, until today, I believe that those devotees who had the honor to be with him together personally and saw him preaching and had this direct contact, they got a kind of injection which surpasses us so much more. And it's hard to grab that on as in the second generation. And all the spirit, or all what we could accomplish after Prabhupada, we could do because of his disciples who kept this
Mood.
This mood, who could kept this mood, yeah. And it was not changed, it was not contaminated, it was pure, and it's still pure. In some maybe forgot it also on the way. But those who is pure, like in our Guru Maharaj, there's still the empowerment there. We see it in him. He does quite so good, and other devotees. This parampara is still functioning, going on. We just have to stick to it. That's the secret. Association. And he made us hot for Sankirtan. Because the Sankirtan devotees, they came usually at Wednesday, because on Sunday they are not allowed to come because they were a little white for the guests, maybe, I guess like that. Because they were like Vikings, coming back to the temple, high ball! The people were a little afraid, so they came Wednesday, and when they arrived, they made kirtan in the evening. But we had only been allowed to go there up until 8 or 8:30. Then we had to go to sleep because to get in the Mangal Aarti. But they still performed for the kirtan, and he said, "No, don't. Now you go to sleep. We keep our program." And he made us hot for Sankirtan. After 2 months, we were so much gluing for Sankirtan, and then he let us run. At least I had it. At least I felt like that. I felt like that. When we were sleeping in the hall. There was the kirtan, and the Bhakta room was a little über der Halle, so weiter nach hinten. And then we could hear the kirtan, feel the kirtan.
Ah, you're talking about the Bhakta program?
Yeah, I'm talking about the Bhakta program.
Yeah, the Sankirtan devotees came and they had their kirtan until midnight.
Yeah.
And I kept all the bhaktas.
Yeah. safe.
And the Sangadan devotees were like in that temple in Schloss Halle were like the heroes.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
heroes.
The
When
heroes.
they would come back, all the new bhaktas
Yeah.
they would adore them. They
Yeah.
wanted to be like them.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing I want to also say was when I came first to the temple in the Schloss Reddershof, his room as the Bhakta leader was just besides the room where the Bhaktas were resting, and his door was open, was always open. And one time I wanted to close the door because I thought it's anständig, dass die Tür immer zu ist. Because from home, when I wasn't home in my parents' house, I always have to close the door. And when I forgot it, father was, hey, close the door. Yeah. So I closed this door and then said, no, let it open. I'm a servant of Krishna. I have no private life. I don't know if you can remember.
It's a little difficult here now.
Yeah, but at that time it was like that. It was a good teaching for me.
As sannyasi, you have to act differently because you don't want any surprises at night. Ja, okay. Das Programm geht wann? Um 3 los?
Thank you very much for
Today
Hare
Aravinda
Krishna.
can do the
Hare
bhajans. Huh?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, he does it in other places also.